Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 5300 045N in a 652 finish. It's a fairly unusual hinge that you don't sell all the time. I think where you really see them is more when they solve a very otherwise costly mistake, or not mistake, but they can help really mitigate something to be less expensive overall. What I'm driving at, what I'm trying to say is no one that I'm aware of orders half-surface hinges for a new installation. That is indeed what the 5300 is from Bommer, at least that's part of what it is. This is a half-surface hinge. So in the world of hinges, you have lots of different hinge types. Full mortise, the most common. Half-surface, half-mortise. Full surface, swing clear, raised barrel, etc., etc. So a half surface hinge versus half mortise. When you use the word half, it applies to the leaf that goes on the door. So if we're talking about a half surface hinge, the leaf that goes on the door is surface mounted, and by deduction, the leaf that goes to the frame is mortise. If it's a half mortise, then we know that the leaf that goes to the door is mortised, like normal, but then that other leaf is the opposite. It's surface mounted. A half surface hinge like this, and then we're going to dissect the part number. Where you would use this is going to be in a situation, and the best way to probably make it obvious where this is used is when you have a hinge location in a door and a hinge location in the frame and they don't match. That would be a time that you use it. It's very likely that you are using it. This client ordered 3, so something tells me that he has a door and a frame that don't match in terms of the hinge locations. If you're ordering one of these, you might have a hinge preparation in the door that is failed. You can toss this hinge up, remove the top hinge, shim the door into position after you have the leaf attached to the frame normally, mark your holes and drill holes through the door for your surface mounted leaf. That allows you to mitigate the problem that your hinge reinforcement in the door has failed, the welds have broken, whatever the case is, tumbled into the door and is unretrievable. That's where you'll see a single hinge used to repair a problem that is otherwise expensive. What's the otherwise expensive part? A new door, or a new frame, or a new door and frame. Whereas a half-surface hinge, while it can be agreed that it's a bit unsightly because you see all of that, is sure a lot more attractive than a brand new door cost. That's the bottom line. This client ordering 3 of them, you could literally have, here's what you could have. Here's an actual scenario. You have a frame in place from Amweld or Kawani, 2 major manufacturers that in their heyday pumped out a lot of doors. And we have sold for both of those folks. They're both out of business and have been for years. Frame is in place. The frame is great. Not pulling the frame out. It's solid. No rust, no nothing. You go to find a door, it turns out that that door is not available. Now you can have it special ordered. We can special order that for you. But matching those hinge locations are odd, especially if it's Kawani. Kawani's unique. Amweld shares locations with Steelcraft and others. And what will happen is the lock location is sometimes in the same place, which is great even though your hinges are off, or the lock location is within a half of an inch or so, and then you can file the strike, or you're using a rim exit device. You don't care where the strike's located because there is no strike. So in that sort of scenario, you don't care where the hinges are located on the frame. You're going to grab a door from your local stocking hollow metal distributor, give me 3 half-surface hinges, and you're done with it. Very inexpensive way to be able to salvage a situation. I never see them installed in new installations. I don't see why you would. But you will see it to mitigate a problem. And that's an outline of those instances that will occur. The way to really best determine how you can maximize or I should say minimize the amount of cost when trying to implement a half surface hinge solution, or half mortise for that matter. It would half surface, half mortise. What would you rather drill through, a 1 3/4 thick steel door or a jamb that's pumped full of concrete mortar? Okay, so you're going to avoid the half mortise hinge. Unless you're going to weld it to the frame, then it's not a big deal, which I don't recommend because you want the next guy 5 years from now to be able to take the hinge off the frame. So half surface is going to be more common than half mortise because you're usually dealing with an existing installation. I was about to say, using a hinge location sheet, a chart that shows all of the manufacturers. And if you are literally trying to salvage get a door for a frame, a door that is of a manufacturer that's no longer in business, what you're going to look for is, where's my hole location? Match that up, because again, you don't care where the hinges are located. This is surface mounting to the door. And then sometimes Seco is 43 7/8, or is it 43 3/16? I'm going to pull that chart up just so I can speak, not going from memory. There is a link to a hinge location chart on our site. Click Contact Us in the upper right-hand corner of the site, and then on the left side, look for Video Gallery. Click on that. Go to page 2, and then do a Control F or a Find function, and search for the term location, Location. You'll find hinge location charts there. I'm clicking on the link called Hinge Location Chart. There are a couple of pages there, and my original one is on page 2. That goes back to the, I created that in the late 1990s. So a Seco 7.0 on the door is 42 1/16. Okay, that one kind of stands alone on a 7-foot door. Top of the door to the center of a 161 is 42 1/16. If you've got a door that's like the Amweld above it, 43 9/16, well, that's 1.5 inches. I don't think you're going to squeeze that out of a strike plate. But if you have an Amweld frame and you can get your hands on a Curry's door, where that lock location is only, 5/16 off? From 43 9/16 to 43 7/8, yeah, you're going to be able to either file your existing strike or order a strike from us with the elongated cutout. So that's where half surface hinges are really going to shine in that sort of regard. Okay, now let's get to the hinge itself. There is extended description information down below that tells us this is for medium weight or low frequency doors. This is a plain bearing hinge. They didn't order ball bearings. I would not recommend that. This should be a BB 5300. If you're installing half surface, only order plain bearing if you are never going to use the door, because over time those hinge barrels are absolutely going to wear out, and that wear and tear is going to become very evident relatively soon in the process. Absolutely see the wear and tear on hinge knuckles in plain bearing applications with any frequency of use, even in a residential application. Given enough time, those hinge knuckles are going to wear and tear. The coat closet door, the door to the from the mudroom to the garage, these high volume use doors, even in residential applications, are going to wear out. The doors are going to sag. They're no longer going to hit properly. Someone's going to try to tighten the screws, realizing that that's really not the problem. Strip the screws out. Now the holes are shot. So a ball bearing hinge is always the way to go. Normally used on composite core doors with hollow metal jambs. So, composite core door, that's a hollow metal door. That's going to be a door made of honeycomb core, polystyrene, polyurethane, structural, rib core door, hat channels inside the door, steel stiffened door is what I'm trying to say. Wood fire rated doors, going to have to be ball bearing. Don't think there'd be any problem with a half-surface hinge on a wood fire-rated door. This is a steel hinge with a steel pin. This is half-surface, template pattern on the leaf to the frame, and we'll go over that. It is plain bearing, 5-knuckle, non-rising pin. This is a non-removable version. We'll go over that as well. It indicates, I should say, it lists the fasteners that are included. You're going to get 4 screws for the leaf to the frame. You're then going to get 3 sex bolt and grommet nuts. That's what goes through the door. You're going to drill holes through the door. You're going to grommet them together. The bolts are intended to be on the exterior side of the opening. I, don't know what to tell you about that. That's just how they are. You might want to try to mitigate that problem somehow by possibly using a countersink, ordering safety screws, security screws, pin torques, things of that nature. You might want to look at that as well. Coming in. This hinge is non-removable pin. And let's talk about non-removable pin. This is what you see from the exterior side of the opening. This is the door. Swings out this way. Okay. From the outside, you don't see any evidence of anything. But if the door were to be positioned this way and open the door to 90 degrees, you now can see that set screw drilled and tapped into the barrel of the hinge is a set screw. In the pin itself, there is a groove that's been ground around the perimeter of the pin, so that when you tighten the set screw, it seats into that groove, and now it's preventing you from driving the pin out. I can tell you that that's all but incredibly effective at preventing the pin from being driven out. If you're going to remove the pin for whatever reason, which you're very likely going to want to. If you want to flip it over, you don't want the hole at the top, I would imagine. Loosen that screw, center punch, drive your pin out, flip your installation over, retighten your screw once you're done with the installation. If it's the proper hand now, which is very likely a left-hand reverse application, loosen the screw, pull your pin out. If you were to install it that way, the way I would install this would be I would attach my hinges to the frame normally, get my door in place, shim it from the ground and on the sides to make sure my margins are correct, locate my holes. I would then remove the door from the opening, and I would drill the holes carefully, make sure that I was drilling correctly, drilling straight, put that process back together, and then attach my door, or I should say swing the door at that point. Take a look at the template. So the template down below shows what the hinge looks like when the door is both in the closed position, which ought to be this is what you're seeing. Closed position, open position, or at least 90-degree position. Okay? Sure not going to achieve a handicap-compliant opening with a typical door, so be mindful of that if you have to achieve handicap compliance. Really isn't going to change hardly at all, but from a full mortise hinge, but nonetheless. The location of the holes for the screws here is considered template pattern. On the frame leaf is considered template pattern. That is a standardized pattern that you're going to bump into. The word template is used to describe both the document that we're looking at, but then also it's used to describe the particular and specific locations. If we're looking at the template, we are looking at the template pattern. Top of the leaf to the center of each, edge of the leaf to the center of each is the template pattern for a 4.5-inch hinge. Anyone's 4.5-inch hinge to a template pattern is going to match these hole locations. Now, on the half surface leaf, the leaf to the door, that's not standardized. If you're replacing a hinge from one manufacturer with another, I would not assume that the locations are the same, and I would definitely review that to be sure. However, in my several and many years of experience, I've never heard of these locations being different. Okay. Now that template also has a table in the bottom that lists the different part numbers and how they change as the base material changes. This is a steel-based hinge. We're going to talk about that when we just dissect the part number. You can see how the part number changes when you go to brass or bronze or stainless steel hinges. And the base material changes, obviously. Then the rows are the different models of, or variants of that type of hinge. The 5300 can become a ball bearing by making it BB 5300. The 5304 variant is nothing other than a heavy-duty version of the hinge, meaning this is standard duty, which means the leaf thickness is 134 thousandths. And according to my caliper, this is 135 thousandths. So a standard weight hinge is 134 thousandths. The heavyweight version of this, which would be a 5304, and you'll notice they don't offer it in a plain bearing. You wouldn't use a heavyweight hinge in plain bearing. BB 5304, that leaf thickness is now 180 thousandths. Lots of use, lots of volume, definitely heavyweight. Doors wider than 3 foot, definitely heavyweight. Absolutely heavyweight. In fact, I would say doors that are 3 foot and wider, I would go heavyweight. The LB 8300 and LB 8304, and then how those part number changes for base material. That's a 3-knuckle version of this with a concealed bearing, a far more attractive look than this messy 5-knuckle look. A 3-knuckle hinge is certainly very attractive. And then the bearings, it is a bearing hinge, they're concealed bearings, which is even more attractive. Now, we have discussed the template. Let's move on to the catalog. There is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only... There's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up the catalog. And if you'd like to pull that catalog up and get to page AH5, you're going to see the matrix by which all Bommer hinges are ordered. Now this is a 5300 045N, and that's the N is the non-removable pin. And you can see how every column changes. The 5-3, the 3 means half surface. The 0-0 means standard and steel-based. Now when you get into... Bommer has a unique system by which they call out their hinge sizes. This is an 045 because there really is no... a 450 would be a 4.5, 4.5, but now we're not really measuring the width along with the height. They turn it into 045. So be mindful of how that works and those examples that are set there. Certain doors in the door options column require information regarding the leaf being square or beveled edge, and that would refer to swing clear hinges. You need to know on the angle of that hinge whether it's 90 degree or it's 93 degree or 87 degree, depending on how you're measuring it, because otherwise the door is not going to close very well. You've got tips and options. You can do decorative tips. You can do pins that are made of stainless or brass. Security options, N for non-removable pin. There are other options: security stud, non-removable, and security stud, and then maximum security stud. You can't do any of the security stud. Well, that's actually not true. You can do I think the maximum security stud you could do on the frame leaf, so that this leaf will not be permitted to be removed from the opening. And you're going to really have some function of security on the hinge because these are generally always out-swinging doors. They can be an in-swinging door, most certainly, it doesn't matter. But where I see these are on exterior doors, commercial hollow metal doors and frames, commercial buildings. The door swings out because of egress code. Those hinges are on the outside. That's where you're going to see it. Electrical options, if any, were to apply. And then the last digits are your finish. This is a 652 hinge. That means two things. It means it's made of steel, and it is a satin chrome finish. If this was satin chrome on a brass-based material, it would be 626. It would be satin chrome, but it would be a brass-based material. If anything, you were going to order this, you would order it as stainless, would be my guess. And then you would order it as 630, exterior hinge, exterior grade material, etc. So that's how you dissect the part number. So it's a great little hinge that goes a long way to solving problems that are otherwise really expensive to solve. If the client is willing to accept the fact that the hinge isn't as aesthetically pleasing by seeing that leaf on the outside, then you've got a really great chance of being able to substantially minimize not only the cost of the opening, but you can then generally deal with off-the-shelf products. I can sell you a steel door from stock. It may not fit your frame, and I can sell you a half-surface hinge. So be mindful of that. Finally, there is that link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Bommer products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Any questions on the Bommer 5300 045N in a 652 finish, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.